The silence in the Grand Assembly Hall was absolute. 10,000 alien representatives held their breath as the massive doors at the far end of the chamber began to open. Light spilled through the growing gap, and a single human figure stepped into view. Ambassador David Reyes walked alone across the crystalline floor. His footsteps echoed through the vast space like heartbeats. Above him, the domed ceiling stretched 3 kilometers high, covered in living displays that showed real-time images of 1,000,000 worlds under council control. Around him, seated in rising tiers that seemed to climb forever, sat the rulers of the galaxy. The Vorthani delegation occupied the lowest tier. Their bodies were made of shifting metal, and their eyes glowed with cold blue light. They had conquered 600 worlds before joining the council. The Tesseron Collective sat above them, their translucent bodies pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that served as their language. They controlled all faster-than-light communication in known space. Higher still sat the Kaldrith Empire. Ancient beyond measure, their representatives wearing ceremonial armor that had not changed in 50,000 years. And at the very top, on a platform that floated unsupported in the air, sat the 5 arbiters of the Galactic Council. They were the final authority on all matters affecting the galaxy. Their word was law. David reached the central speaking platform and stopped. He was 51 years old, with gray eyes and a calm expression that revealed nothing. Behind him, where the rest of the human delegation should have stood, there was only empty space. First, Arbiter Mellerin Voss leaned forward. She was Kaldrith, her scaled skin the color of burnished gold, her 4 arms folded in a gesture of formal judgment. When she spoke, her voice filled the chamber without amplification. Ambassador Reyes, you stand before the Galactic Council to answer for humanity's violations of the Territorial Compact. Your species has expanded into 17 star systems without authorization. You have refused to pay tribute to the mining guilds. You have rejected 3 official demands for compliance. She paused, her vertical pupils narrowing. The Council has voted. Humanity is ordered to withdraw from all unauthorized territories within 60 standard days. Failure to comply will result in economic sanctions, trade embargo, and if necessary, military intervention. How does Earth respond? Every eye in the chamber focused on David. The Vorthani shifted eagerly, their metal bodies clicking in anticipation. The Tesseron pulsed with colors of satisfaction. This was the moment humanity would be brought to heel. Just like every other young species before them, David reached into his jacket and removed a small silver disc. He placed it on the podium in front of him and pressed its center. A hologram appeared above the disc. It showed Earth spinning slowly, surrounded by a web of light that pulsed with energy. First Arbiter, David said, his voice steady. I am authorized to deliver the following message from the United Earth Government. He touched the disc again. A recorded voice began to speak, the voice of Earth's President, Maria Santos. To the Galactic Council. For 200 years, humanity has participated in your institutions. We have followed your laws. We have paid your tributes. We have accepted your judgments. During this time, we have observed, we have learned, and we have prepared. Effective immediately, the United Earth Government withdraws from the Galactic Council. All treaties are terminated. All trade agreements are canceled. All diplomatic relations are severed. Human space is now closed. Any vessel that crosses our borders without permission will not return. The hologram flickered and died. The chamber exploded into chaos. 10,000 voices screamed, howled, clicked, and buzzed in outrage. The Vorthani delegation rose to their feet, their blue eyes blazing. The Tesseron flashed patterns of pure fury. Even the normally stoic Kaldrith guards shifted uneasily. First Arbiter, Mellerin slammed her ceremonial staff against her platform. The sound cut through the noise like a blade. Silence. The chamber fell quiet, but the tension remained thick enough to taste. "Ambassador," Mellerin said, her voice cold with barely contained rage, "do you understand what you have done? No species has ever left the Council. The consequences will be severe. You will be isolated. You will be blockaded. You will watch your people starve while the galaxy turns its back on you." David collected the disc and returned it to his jacket. Then he looked up at the first arbiter with an expression that made several nearby delegates step backward. "First arbiter, humanity did not make this decision lightly. We know exactly what we are doing. The question is whether you do." He turned and began walking toward the exit. "You cannot leave." Mellerin shouted, "We have not dismissed you." David did not stop. He did not turn around. "That is precisely the point," he said over his shoulder. "You do not dismiss us anymore. No one does." The doors opened before him and closed behind him, sealing with a sound like a tomb being shut in the observation gallery above the main chamber. Military Director Gareth Vorn of the Vorthani Empire watched the human ambassador disappear. Unlike the others around him, he was not angry. He was not outraged. He was calculating. Gareth had spent 40 years studying lesser species, learning their weaknesses, planning their conquests. He had never lost a campaign. He had broken 100 civilizations. And something about the human ambassador's confidence disturbed him deeply. He turned to his aide, a younger Vorthani named Kalos. "Access all intelligence files on humanity. Everything we have collected since first contact. I want it on my desk within the hour." Kalos tilted his head. "Sir, our files on humanity are minimal. They are a young species. Primitive technology. Limited military capacity. They pose no real threat." "Then explain to me," Gareth said quietly, "why a primitive species with no military would challenge the entire galaxy." He looked back at the closed doors. "Find me answers, Kalos. Because I have a feeling we are missing something important." 3 levels below, in a private chamber reserved for economic analysis, Trade Minister Thessaly Karn of the Tesseron Collective was already running numbers. The holographic displays around her showed trade routes, resource flows, and economic projections that stretched decades into the future. The picture was not good. Humanity, she realized, had inserted themselves into the galactic economy more deeply than anyone had noticed. Human medicine treated diseases that no other species could cure. Human food production techniques had quietly spread to 40 worlds. Human entertainment was consumed by billions of beings who had never even seen a human in person. If human space closed completely, the economic impact would be devastating. Thessaly touched a control, and the display changed to show something else. Something her analysts had discovered just 3 months ago and had been too afraid to report. Deep in human territory, hidden behind layers of interference and misdirection, there was construction activity. Massive construction activity. Shipyards the size of small moons. Industrial complexes that dwarfed anything the Council had ever built. Humanity had been building something. Something huge, and no one knew what it was. Thessaly saved the data and locked it with her highest security clearance. Then she sent a message to First Arbiter Mellerin, requesting an emergency private meeting. Whatever humanity was planning, the Council needed to find out. Fast. Because Thessaly had a terrible feeling that they were already too late. The Vorthani battle fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of human territory. 40 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet, arranged themselves in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with the dark metal that had become a symbol of fear across 1,000 worlds. Military Director Gareth Vorn stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Unbreakable Will. Before him, through the massive viewing window, lay the boundary of human space. A line of navigation beacons stretched across the void, blinking with soft white light. "Status report," Gareth commanded, His tactical officer responded immediately. All ships in position, Director. Weapons charged. Shields at maximum. We detect no human vessels in the immediate area. Gareth nodded slowly. It had been 3 months since humanity's dramatic withdrawal from the Council. 3 months of chaos, confusion, and growing fear. The Council had debated endlessly about how to respond. Gareth had grown tired of waiting. He had not come to attack. Not yet. The Council had authorized only a reconnaissance mission, a show of force meant to remind humanity of their place in the galaxy. But Gareth had other plans. Launch the probe drones, he ordered. I want full sensor coverage of everything within 10 light years of this position. The drones launched, spreading out like seeds scattered in the wind. Their sensors swept across human space, searching for military installations, shipyards, defensive positions. What they found made Gareth's blood run cold. Director, his tactical officer said, voice trembling, you need to see this. The main display flickered and changed. It showed a region of space approximately 200 light-years inside human territory. And in that region, there were ships, dozens of ships. Not hundreds, thousands. Human warships filled the display like stars in a nebula. They were arranged in perfect defensive formations, positioned to intercept any invasion force from any direction. Their designs were unlike anything in the Council database. Sleek, angular vessels bristling with weapon systems that the Vorthani computers could not identify. That is impossible, Gareth whispered. Our intelligence said they had perhaps 50 combat vessels. Obsolete designs. Minimal threat. His tactical officer shook his head. Sir, I am counting over 3,000 warships in this sector alone, and our probes are detecting similar concentrations in 6 other sectors. Gareth gripped the railing in front of him, so hard that the metal bent under his fingers. They lied to us. For 200 years, they lied to us about everything. Before he could process this information, alarms began screaming throughout the bridge. Contact! The tactical officer shouted. Multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace directly ahead. Space itself seemed to tear open. Light poured through the ruptures, and human vessels emerged. Not the massive warships they had detected deeper in human territory. These were smaller, faster ships. Patrol craft. Interceptors. There were exactly 40 of them. One for each Vorthani warship. A communication signal cut through the chaos. A human face appeared on the main display. She was young, perhaps 30 years old, with dark skin and eyes that held no fear whatsoever. Vorthani Fleet, this is Captain Edaz Obi of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered restricted space. You will reverse course immediately and return to Council territory. This is your only warning. Gareth straightened his posture, refusing to show weakness. Captain, I am Military Director Gareth Vorn of the Vorthani Empire. We are conducting authorized reconnaissance under Council mandate. You will stand aside. Captain Obi smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Director Vorn, perhaps you did not hear President Santus clearly. All treaties are terminated. Your Council mandate means nothing here. You have 60 seconds to begin your withdrawal. After that, we will consider your presence an act of war. You would not dare. Attacking a Vorthani fleet would bring the entire might of the Council against you. 45 seconds. Gareth looked at the tactical display. The human ships were smaller, yes, but now that they were closer, his sensors could analyze them properly. What he saw destroyed any remaining confidence he possessed. Those ships were faster than his. Their weapons had longer range. Their shields were stronger, and there were 3,000 more, just like them waiting deeper in human space. 30 seconds. Director, Gareth made the hardest decision of his military career. All ships reverse course. We are returning to Council space. The bridge crew stared at him in shock. No Vorthani fleet had ever retreated from an inferior force. It was unthinkable. Now, Gareth snarled. Execute the order. The fleet turned and fled. Captain Obi's ships followed them to the boundary, then stopped, holding position as the Vorthani disappeared into hyperspace. The return journey to Council headquarters took 3 days. Gareth spent every minute of that time in his private quarters, reviewing the sensor data again and again. By the time he arrived at the Grand Assembly Hall, he had reached a conclusion that filled him with dread. Humanity had been planning this for centuries. The emergency council session was already in progress when he entered. First Arbiter Mellorin Voss sat on her floating platform, listening to representatives argue about trade disruptions and diplomatic responses. When she saw Gareth, she raised a hand for silence. Military Director, report. Gareth walked to the central platform. He activated his personal display unit and projected the images his probes had captured. Honored arbiters, distinguished representatives, what you are seeing is the human military, not the 50 obsolete vessels our intelligence predicted. Over 20,000 advanced warships spread across human space in defensive positions that would make any invasion catastrophically costly. The chamber erupted in chaos. Gareth waited for the noise to subside before continuing. There is more. Our analysis indicates that human technology is at least 2 centuries ahead of our most optimistic projections. Their weapons, their shields, their propulsion systems, all of it is beyond anything we currently possess. First Arbiter Mellorin leaned forward. How is this possible? We have monitored their development for 200 years. They showed us only what they wanted us to see, Gareth replied. Everything else they hid. Every treaty negotiation, every trade deal, every diplomatic exchange. They were gathering intelligence while feeding us false information. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives who had mocked humanity just months ago. We thought we were studying them. We thought we were guiding their development. We thought we were in control. He turned back to the First Arbiter. We were never in control. They let us believe we were because it served their purposes. And now that it no longer serves their purposes, they have revealed the truth. Trade Minister Thessaly Karn rose from her seat in the Tesseron section. What do you recommend, Director? Gareth was silent for a long moment. I recommend we find out what they actually want. Because whatever it is, I do not think we are in a position to refuse. The chamber fell silent. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Galactic Council had no idea what to do next. And somewhere in human space, Ambassador David Reyes received word that the Vorthani fleet had retreated. He smiled and sent a message to President Santos. Phase 1 was complete. Phase 2 was about to begin. The diplomatic shuttle crossed into human space without incident. Trade Minister Thessaly Karn sat alone in the passenger compartment, watching the stars drift past her viewport. She had volunteered for this mission when no one else would. Someone had to learn the truth about humanity's intentions. Her shuttle was escorted by 2 human fighters that had appeared the moment she crossed the boundary. They said nothing, simply flanking her vessel and guiding it deeper to human territory. Thessaly tried to scan them with her ship's sensors, but the readings made no sense. The technology was too advanced for her instruments to interpret. After 6 hours of travel, Earth appeared in her viewport. The blue planet hung in the darkness like a jewel, surrounded by a web of orbital stations and defensive platforms. Thessaly counted at least 50 major installations before she lost track. Her shuttle landed at a facility called Geneva Spaceport. A human delegation was waiting for her on the platform. Leading them was a woman Thessaly recognized from Council intelligence files. Director Elena Vasquez, head of Earth's External Relations Division. Trade Minister Karn, Elena said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. Welcome to Earth. We have been expecting you. Thessaly touched Elena's hand briefly, mimicking the gesture she had studied. Director Vasquez, I appreciate humanity's willingness to receive me. The Council hopes we can resolve this situation peacefully. Elena smiled, but her eyes remained cool. The Council hopes to convince us to return. That will not happen, but we are willing to explain why. She turned and began walking toward a waiting vehicle. Come, there is something you need to see. The vehicle carried them through Geneva and into the surrounding countryside. Thessaly watched through the window as forests and mountains passed by. Earth was beautiful, she realized. Far more beautiful than the Council archives had suggested. They stopped at a facility built into the side of a mountain. Armed guards stood at every entrance, their weapons unlike anything Thessaly had seen. Elena led her through security checkpoints and into an elevator that descended deep. Underground, the doors opened onto a vast cavern filled with holographic displays. Humans worked at stations throughout the space, monitoring data streams that Thessaly could not interpret. At the center of the cavern stood a massive projection showing the entire galaxy. This is our Strategic Analysis Center, Elena explained. From here, we monitor everything that happens in known space. Every ship movement, every communication, every political development. Thessaly stared at the display. Red markers covered the galaxy, concentrated around Council core worlds. Green markers showed human positions. Yellow markers indicated neutral or disputed regions. You have been watching us, Thessaly said slowly. All of us. For how long? Since before first contact, Elena replied. We detected your civilization's signals approximately 300 years ago. We spent the first century studying you before we allowed ourselves to be discovered. Thessaly felt her body temperature drop. You allowed yourselves to be discovered? Of course. We needed to join your economy, access your technology, understand your politics. The best way to do that was from inside. Elena touched a control, and the display changed. It now showed a timeline stretching back 200 years. When we first joined the Council, we were genuinely behind you technologically. Perhaps 50 years behind. But we learned quickly. We studied everything you shared with us and improved upon it. We observed your mistakes and avoided them. Within a century, we had caught up. Within another 50 years, we had surpassed you. The timeline showed human technological progress compared to Council development. The human line climbed steadily upward, while the Council line remained almost flat. Why did you hide this? Thessaly asked. Because we were not ready. Building technology is one thing. Building the infrastructure to support that technology is another. We needed time to construct shipyards, train personnel, establish supply chains. The Council gave us that time by believing we were weak. Elena turned to face Thessaly directly. Trade Minister, I am going to be completely honest with you. We did not leave the Council because of the territorial dispute. That was merely the excuse. We left because the Council is dying, and we refused to die with it. Thessaly felt a surge of anger. The Council has maintained peace for 50,000 years. We are not dying. You have maintained stagnation for 50,000 years, Elena corrected. There is a difference. When was the last time any Council species developed a genuinely new technology? When was the last time any of you pushed beyond your comfortable boundaries? You have been coasting on ancient achievements for so long that you have forgotten how to achieve anything new. She touched another control. The display showed economic projections, population trends, resource consumption rates. Our analysts project that the Council economy will collapse within the next 500 years. Not because of external threats, but because of internal decay. You are consuming more than you are producing. You are depending on systems that are slowly breaking down. You are dying so gradually that you cannot even see it happening. Thessaly wanted to argue, but the data was compelling. She had seen similar trends in her own economic models, but had dismissed them as temporary fluctuations. "What do you want from us?" she asked quietly. Elena smiled, and this time there was warmth in it. "We want you to survive. Not the Council as an institution, but the species that comprise it. We want you to wake up, to start growing again, to become something more than you are." She gestured at the displays around them. Humanity did not achieve this through some special genius. We achieved it because we never stopped trying. We competed with each other, challenged each other, pushed each other to be better. That is what we are offering the galaxy. Offering? Or demanding? Neither. We are simply presenting an alternative. Any species that wants to grow, to innovate, to become more than they are, is welcome to seek partnership with us. We will share everything we have with those who prove they are willing to work for it. Thessaly considered this. And those who refuse? Elena's expression hardened. They will be left behind. We cannot force anyone to change. But we will not sacrifice our future to preserve their comfortable decline. A communication alert interrupted them. Elena checked her device and nodded. "Trade Minister, there is someone who wishes to speak with you. Someone who I think will help you understand our position better." She led Thessaly to a private chamber where a single figure waited. He was human, elderly, with white hair and a face lined with decades of experience. Thessaly recognized him immediately. "Ambassador Reyes," she said. "I thought you had returned to Earth permanently." David Reyes rose and offered his hand. "I had, but when I heard you were coming, I requested permission to meet you. I wanted to explain something that Director Vasquez may not have told you." He gestured for Thessaly to sit. "Everything Elena said is true, but there is another truth she may have avoided. What we are doing will cause suffering. The transition we are forcing will destabilize the galaxy. Species that cannot adapt will face hardship. Some may not survive." He met Thessaly's eyes. "We know this. We have accepted it, because the alternative is worse. A slow, comfortable death is still death. We are offering the galaxy a chance to live again, even though living is harder than dying." Thessaly sat in silence for a long moment. "What happens now?" she finally asked. David leaned forward. "Now you have a choice. You can return to the Council and tell them what you have learned. You can help them understand that resistance is futile and cooperation is their only path forward. Or you can join them in denial and watch everything you have built crumble." He stood and walked to the door. "The choice is yours, Trade Minister. But I suggest you choose quickly, because humanity's patience is not unlimited." He left her alone in the room, surrounded by the weight of everything she had learned. Outside, Eleni Vasquez received a priority message from President Santos. Phase 2 was complete. It was time for Phase 3. The final confrontation was about to begin. Trade Minister Thessaly Karn stood before the Grand Assembly with humanity's message burning in her mind. 2 weeks had passed since her visit to Earth. 2 weeks of sleepless nights, endless analysis, and growing certainty that everything she believed was wrong. "Distinguished representatives," she began, her voice carrying through the chamber, "I have seen the truth of humanity's position. They are not weak. They are not primitive. They have been preparing for this moment for over 2 centuries, and they possess capabilities that far exceed anything in our combined arsenals." The chamber stirred uneasily. First Arbiter Mellorin Voss leaned forward on her floating platform. "We have heard Director Vorn's report. We understand humanity is stronger than we believed, but strength alone does not justify their actions. They have violated sacred treaties. They have disrupted galactic order. They must be brought to account. Thessaly shook her head. First Arbiter, you are not listening. Humanity does not want to fight us. They want us to change. They believe the Council is dying, and they have the evidence to prove it. She activated her display unit and projected the data Elena Vasquez had shown her. Economic trends, population statistics, innovation rates. The picture was damning. In the last 1,000 years, the combined species of the Council have developed exactly 0 new fundamental technologies. Our economies are stagnant. Our populations are declining. We are living off the achievements of our ancestors, while producing nothing new ourselves. Military Director Gareth Vaughan rose from his seat. This is defeatist propaganda. The Vorthani Empire has conquered 3 systems in the last century. We are not stagnating. You conquered systems that were already developed by others, Thessaly replied. You did not build anything new. You simply took what existed. That is not growth. That is parasitism. The Vorthani delegation erupted in outrage, but Thessaly continued. Humanity is offering us a choice. We can continue as we are and watch our civilization slowly collapse. Or we can accept their challenge, start innovating again, and earn a place in the future they are building. First Arbiter Mellerin stood. And if we refuse? If we choose to remain as we are? Thessaly hesitated. This was the part she had dreaded revealing. Then they will leave us behind, permanently. She touched her display, and a new image appeared. It showed the boundary of human space, marked by thousands of strange devices positioned at regular intervals. These are not defensive installations. They are engines. Humanity has converted their entire territory into a mobile system. If we refuse their terms, if we threaten them with force, they will simply leave. They will take their stars, their planets, and their people to another galaxy entirely. The chamber fell absolutely silent. They tested the system 6 months ago. It works. They can be gone within hours, and we will never find them. First Arbiter Mellerin sank back into her seat. For the first time in her long life, she looked old. What are we supposed to do? She asked quietly. Simply abandon everything we have built? Accept that we are inferior? Thessaly stepped closer to the central platform. Not inferior. Different. Humanity is not better than us. They simply never stopped trying to be better than themselves. That is what they want us to learn. The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Representatives argued, threatened, pleaded, and denounced each other. The Vorthani demanded military action, despite the obvious risks. The Tesseran insisted on economic negotiation. The Caldrith sat in stony silence, their ancient certainty finally shaken. On the 4th day, something unprecedented happened. The Helen Federation, a minor species from the Galactic Rim, announced their withdrawal from the Council. We have studied humanity's offer, their representative declared. We choose to accept their challenge. We will develop new technologies. We will prove our worth. We will seek partnership with humanity rather than continued membership in a dying institution. Within hours, 11 more species made similar announcements. The Council was fracturing. First, Arbiter Mellerin called an emergency session of the 5 Arbiters. They met in private chambers that had not been used in 10,000 years, chambers designed for moments of existential crisis. We are losing control, Second Arbiter Korath stated flatly. He was Tesseran, his body pulsing with agitated patterns. Every hour, more species announced their departure. The economic networks are collapsing. Trade routes are being rerouted away from Council space. Third Arbiter Voss, no relation to Mellerin despite sharing her name, tapped her clawed fingers against the table. She was Vorthani, and her military pride had taken a severe blow in recent weeks. We could still strike. A coordinated attack on human space would demonstrate that leaving the council has consequences. And accomplish what exactly? Fourth Arbiter Elam asked. He was the oldest of them, his species so ancient that few remembered their name. Kill a few humans? Destroy a few ships? We cannot win a war against TH. Director Vorn made that clear. All we would do is give them justification to abandon us completely. Fifth Arbiter Series, a young member by council standards, spoke for the first time. Perhaps we should consider that humanity might be right. Perhaps we have become too comfortable. Perhaps change is exactly what we need. Mellorin turned to face her youngest colleague. You suggest we simply accept their terms? Allow them to dictate the future of the galaxy? I suggest we stop treating this as a defeat and start treating it as an opportunity. Ceres leaned forward. Humanity is not trying to conquer us. They are trying to wake us up. If we respond with wisdom instead of pride, we might actually learn something. The debate continued through the night. By morning, a fragile consensus had emerged. The council would not fight. The council would not negotiate from a position of false strength. Instead, they would send a delegation to humanity with a simple question. What would it take for the council and humanity to coexist? Trade Minister Thessaly Karn was chosen to lead the delegation. She had seen humanity's power firsthand. She had spoken with their leaders. She was the only one they might listen to. As she prepared for her second journey to Earth, Thessaly received an unexpected visitor. Military Director Gareth Vorn stood at her door, his metal body still, and his blue eyes dimmed with something that might have been shame. Trade Minister. I wished to speak with you before you departed. Thessaly invited him in. What can I do for you, Director? Gareth was silent for a long moment. I have spent my entire life believing that strength was the only thing that mattered. Conquer or be conquered. Dominate or submit. Humanity has shown me that I was wrong. He met her eyes. They are stronger than us, but they do not want to conquer us. That should be impossible according to everything I believed. And yet it is true. Thessaly nodded slowly. What do you want me to tell them? Tell them that the Vorthani are willing to learn. Tell them that we will accept their challenge. Tell them that if they give us a chance, we will prove that we can be more than conquerors. It was the closest thing to humility that any Vorthani had ever expressed. Thessaly touched his arm gently. I will tell them, Director. I promise. As her ship launched toward human space, Thessaly wondered what she would find when she arrived. Would humanity give them another chance? Or had the Council already missed their opportunity? The answer would determine the fate of the galaxy. And somewhere on Earth, President Maria Santos reviewed the reports of Council species defecting to humanity's cause. The plan was working. The galaxy was waking up, but the final test was still to come. 1 year had passed since humanity severed all ties with the Galactic Council. The galaxy had transformed in ways no one could have predicted. Trade Minister Thessaly Karn stood on an observation platform orbiting Earth, watching ships from a dozen different species dock at the massive station. The Progressive Alliance, as it had come to be called, now included 43 worlds. Each one had answered humanity's challenge. Each one had developed something new. The Helen Federation had created a revolutionary method for harvesting energy from dying stars. The Vorthani, humbled but determined, had designed propulsion systems that cut travel times by half. The Tesseron fragments that joined the Alliance had developed communication networks that operated instantaneously across any distance. All of them had earned their place through innovation rather than inheritance. Thessaly turned as footsteps approached. Director Elena Vasquez walked toward her, accompanied by a figure Thessaly had never expected to see again. First Arbiter Mellorin Voss looked diminished. Her golden scales had lost their luster, and her 4 arms hung limply at her sides. She had been removed from power 6 months ago when the Caldrith people voted to join the Progressive Alliance. Now she was simply Mellerin, a refugee from a collapsing institution. Trade Minister, Mellerin said quietly. Director Vasquez tells me you requested this meeting. Thessaly nodded. I did. I wanted you to see what we have built. What you could have been part of from the beginning. She gestured at the view before them. Hundreds of vessels moved through the space around Earth. Human ships flew alongside Borthani cruisers, Tesseran transports, Helen research vessels, and dozens of other designs. It was the most diverse gathering of species the galaxy had ever seen. The old council is finished, Thessaly continued. The Dominari faction that refused to change has isolated itself completely. They control perhaps 1,000 systems now, surrounded by species that want nothing to do with them. Within a century, they will be irrelevant. Mellerin's eyes tracked across the view. And humanity? Are they satisfied with what they have achieved? Elena stepped forward to answer. Satisfied is not the right word. We are hopeful. The Alliance is growing faster than we projected. Species that we thought would resist are embracing the challenge. The galaxy is waking up. But it came at a cost, Mellerin said. Billions suffered during the transition. Trade networks collapsed. Economies failed. People died. Yes, Elena acknowledged. We knew that would happen. We accepted it because the alternative was worse. A slow death is still death. We chose the harder path because it was the only path that led to life. Mellerin was silent for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked both Thessaly and Elena. She bowed her head. I was wrong, the former First Arbiter said. For 50,000 years, the Council believed we had achieved perfection. We thought we had built something that would last forever. We were fools. She raised her head and met Elena's eyes. Humanity saw what we could not. You saw that we were dying, and you refused to let us take you with us. I hated you for it. I hated you for being right when I was wrong. And now? Elena asked. Now I understand. Growth requires pain. Change requires sacrifice. We avoided both for so long that we forgot they were necessary. Mellerin straightened her posture, some of her old dignity returning. The Caldrith people have asked me to serve as their representative to the Progressive Alliance. I am here to submit our formal application. Elena smiled. The Caldrith have already demonstrated their commitment to innovation. Your application will be reviewed favorably. There is one condition, Mellerin added. I wish to work directly with humanity, to learn from you, to understand how you maintained your drive to improve when every other species lost theirs. Thessaly exchanged a glance with Elena. This was unexpected. The Caldrith had been the foundation of the old council. Having their former leader asked to learn from humanity was a symbolic victory beyond measure. That can be arranged, Elena said. Ambassador Reyes has expressed interest in establishing a cultural exchange program. You would be welcome to participate. Mellerin nodded slowly. Then I accept. I am old, Director Vasquez. I have perhaps another century of life remaining. I intend to spend it understanding what humanity has achieved. She turned back to the view of the gathered fleet. When I was young, the galaxy felt infinite. Every star held possibility. Every species held potential. Somewhere along the way, we lost that feeling. We became comfortable. We stopped dreaming. Her voice grew stronger. Humanity reminded us how to dream again. That is your greatest gift to the galaxy. Not your technology. Not your military power. Your refusal to accept that anything was impossible. The three of them stood together, watching the ships move through space. Human vessels. Alien vessels. All working together toward a future none of them could have imagined a year ago, that far below on Earth's surface. President Maria Santos received word that the Caldrith had formally applied to the Progressive Alliance. She smiled and leaned back in her chair. Ambassador David Reyes sat across from her, reviewing the latest reports from Alliance worlds. 43 members, he said. Double what we projected at this point. The Dominari holdouts are fragmenting. 3 more of their subject worlds defected last week. And the boundary engines? Maria asked. Powering down. We no longer need an escape route. The galaxy has chosen to live. Maria stood and walked to her window. Outside, the sun was setting over the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. David, do you think we did the right thing? Forcing this change on them? David joined her at the window. We did not force anything. We presented a choice. Grow or stagnate. Live or die. They made their own decisions. Some of them died because of those decisions. Yes, and billions more will live because of them. Progress has always required sacrifice. We simply made sure the sacrifice was not wasted. Maria nodded slowly. The historians will debate this for centuries. Whether we were saviors or tyrants. Whether the cost was justified. Let them debate, David replied. We know what we did and why we did it. The galaxy was dying. We gave it a reason to live. Everything else is just details. A message arrived on Maria's personal display. She read it and smiled. The Helen delegation has arrived for the Technology Summit. They want to discuss combining their energy harvesting systems with our propulsion technology. The future is moving fast, David observed. It always does. That is the point. Maria turned away from the window and headed toward the door. There was work to be done. A galaxy to rebuild. A future to create. Behind her, the sun finished setting and the stars came out. The same stars that humanity had watched for thousands of years, dreaming of the day they would reach them. They had reached them. And they had changed everything. The Galactic Council was dead. But from its ashes, something new was rising. Something that would grow and change and evolve, never settling, never stopping, never accepting that it was good enough. Humanity had given the galaxy a gift more precious than any, technology. They had given it hope. And hope, as humanity had always known, was the most powerful force in the universe. The story of the galaxy's rebirth was just beginning, and humanity would be there to see it through, not as conquerors, not as rulers. As teachers, as partners, as friends. The stars had never seemed so bright.